So right off the bat for chapter 10, the story about Lady Gaga caught my extreme attention because Lady Gaga came out whenever I was in seventh grade, and I will admit that when her song Just Dance came out, I was not a big fan of it, but because of my mother, she was like, you know what, we should just go buy her album and see what other songs she has. And so we went to go buy the album, and I just started listening to every single song, and I fell in love with her music. So with personality, it's an everyday thing that I get to experience and observe through friends, relationships, and mostly the students, which is amazing to experience with the students. So I definitely agreed with what chapter explained about Lady Gaga, because she did wear the meat dress, and her unpredictability was interesting to the public eye because no one ever knew what she was going to do. But for the Super Bowl, I remember whenever that came out, the only reason why I was watching the Super Bowl is because I wanted to see how she was going to perform the national anthem. And I remember later on, she had an interview about the national anthem, and I thought it was amazing for her to speak about it is our national anthem, and it should be authentically, sung, and not how every other artist decides to put in their own taste. And it really was one of the best national anthems I've ever seen someone perform. And so, with Lady Gaga back then, I noticed that she had a really open-minded personality, and I just thought, wow, there's an artist who's greatly open-minded and supports all kinds of people, so maybe I should practice that. So I have a really outgoing personality, and I love meeting new people, making new friends, and just being surrounded by different personalities, because sometimes it does light up the room. And of course, there are some personality clashes where I'm like, okay, don't want to be like that person. But I'm still a good, loving, welcoming, and accepting person. And I said it many, many times, but with LeTourneau University, I just greatly learned that I want to approach others the way I would want God to approach me. And it's exceptionally interesting to do that within the schools. And I have a coworker who I met, and she's like 56, and you wouldn't even think that she's 56 or 55, however old she is. I don't remember. I just know she's in her 50s, but looks like she's in her 30s. She's exceptionally fit. She does her side jobs, working in the gyms and everything. And in the past chapters, there was the passive and then the authoritarian, and she taught me that if you go in as a complete authoritarian, students will sense it and they're not going to have respect for you. So I've observed her do it, and the kids exceptionally love her. She's just so amazing to observe in the classroom, because she presents her open-mindedness, her acceptance, and her welcoming to the students. And within my classroom, we have 7 students, but before the 7th student came in, everything was falling into place, especially all the different personalities that each student likes to uphold in front, just to seem like, oh, I'm better and badder than you. But we all discussed with the students, like, hey, you know what? It's not even about that. It's about, what we can do to change and become better, and all the other work that we need to complete. Well, when the 7th student came in, the dynamic completely changed. The student was quiet and observed the classroom for the first 2 days, but this other student who likes to show out, of course, brought in her exceptional, outspoken personality. So that 7th student, just the dynamic of it all now is, what personality can each student bring to present that they are more than what each other person is within the classroom. And the best part for me is noticing the differences of personality outside of the classroom. When we integrate to different classrooms, the students they present their personality as respectable, polite, all the great things that I love to see the students do. And we have discussed with our students that, hey, in our classroom, we're not going to judge, whatever you need to do. This is your place to cool down and do what you need to do to succeed. But in other classrooms, they all have changed their ways of when they know that they are going to have an outburst, they will go to our classroom, have a cool down, and we start all over, which is fine. So within personality, my worldview with God that I later learned was approaching others the way I want to be approached, and always being accepting, loving, and welcoming. So within personality of chapter 10, the environment and the dynamic was interesting to learn about, as well as Sigmund Freud's detail of how it's, biological, the way we think, we feel, and we behave. So that was a big outtake from this chapter.